Uptilts are scary, right? It's pretty much the most difficult angle of the head you'll ever draw. But it doesn't have to be. And in fact, it's only really hard if you try to start with the Loomis method, which is what I tried doing for many years. So because in the last video I showed you a different approach to drawing the head, today I want to go a little more in depth and tackle some uptilts with the box method so that hopefully you can start appreciating why it's better to start with the box and how much more easy our life becomes if we do so. Alright, so first, two disclaimers. I'm not going deep into head construction in this video. This is specifically going to tackle the uptilts, and because of that, you do need some prior knowledge of the construction of the head and the main planes of the head if you want to do the uptilts. Uptilts are hard, so make sure you can at least draw the head from other angles before, because otherwise you will simply not know what to do. That said, this is the type of head I will try to reproduce in the uptilts. It's somewhat of a blend of a Loomis head and a Sar head, clearly starting with the box method. If you want to know more and you want me to tackle other angles, please do let me know in the comments down below, because I will record a specific video about that. For our angles, I'm going to use the box matrix that I talk about in the box rotation video, so if you haven't watched that video, check that out. I will put a link in the video description so that you can download these angles, and hopefully you can use them as a starting point. I also went ahead and divided this in 3 parts. If you don't know how to divide and extend a surface, it's basically, well, let's do it properly. So with a cross, you bisect it. And then with this bisection, you can, let's actually go down there, you can extend it to create a third point. Something like that. It's not super precise, approximation is fine. Bear in mind that I am using the thirds, but there is a little bit of the top of the head that goes beyond the third. So if you take it from the side, it's gonna be something like that. So it kind of starts around here, the hairline, and then this part should be 1, 1, and 1. So these are the thirds. So I'm going to add maybe a little bit to the top, depending on the angle, but probably not gonna be necessary because it's receding in space, so we would still not see it from any of these angles. That said, let's get started. So you should also know that from the side, the cranium is technically not a sphere. It's got this sort of form, so it's like an oblong or an egg, I would say. So whatever we use to start with, if it's square or a sphere, it's not really gonna work, especially at these angles, because we will see part of the back of the head. So I'm gonna just add this much, just a little bit to the back. Then I will find roughly the middle, a little bit closer to the back probably, because otherwise it's gonna look weird. And then I think this might be a little long, so I'm going to adjust for that. This is the attachment of the jaw, so I will connect that like so. I'm gonna keep it very simple. From the bottom, you want to emphasize this sort of rhythm that goes down. So if you got the pit of your neck, there's this sort of rhythm that runs down. And I found this is really important actually to make the head look good, because if you don't draw the neck, it's just gonna look strange. So something like that works. Then you got your sternocleidomastoid that attaches right behind the ears. And then I'm gonna give it a thicker neck because I think it looks better. And then you would have your traps coming down, something like that. Now I do want to curve the front of the face a little bit, because someone pointed out in the last video, my heads using the box method come out very flat. Well, that's because, or the face rather. Well, that's because you do need to curve it a little bit. Whether you curve it or not depends on the type of character you draw. If you draw more anime style, you don't need to curve it as much. But let's curve it here. And you can really go wild with the curve. Like you could even do like something like that. I'm gonna keep it simple for this, and I still find it easier than drawing starting with a sphere. So even if we're adding some roundness, I'm gonna put the nose here. Now I want to draw the front of the head like this image you're seeing right now. So I'm going to curve these in. It's kind of like an Iron Man mask, if you're familiar with it. And because the receding part is actually going inside, I'm gonna lower this ever so slightly. I'm gonna add maybe a little bit of the top of the brow. I don't know if it's really necessary, but something like that. So it's probably gonna start from there, going wider, and then I come down here to the chin. Something like that. And then I just connect with a somewhat of a rounder shape here. Our chin will probably be there. Please notice that the bottom of the face is obviously going to look bigger from this angle. And the mouth is wrapping around that sort of ovoid, that's the muzzle. So it's probably going to be something like that in terms of form. I'm not going to try to get it specifically as it is, but it's something like that. And then we want to mark, hopefully, our bottom planes so that we know where they are. I'm not going to do all of these in real time because otherwise you're just going to get bored. I will get most of them, but the most extreme ones are probably going to be completely useless for you. So I don't think you want to sit here and watch something that's not useful for you. But it's really important not to get lost here and remember all of these planes. Also, I wanted to mention before you get into, I'm going to add the ears here, by the way. Before you get into drawing uptilts, why are you drawing the uptilts? Because most of the times it's not going to be necessary at all. Like you're probably not going to need them. So make sure you do need the uptilts if you draw them. Because if you're drawing a lot of characters and you do not need any uptilt, it's completely useless. Now, a word of notice here, you technically have your windpipe. This shape tends to be a little confusing, so sometimes I just leave it out. So something like that works. Let's tackle this one. Again, I'm going to add a little bit to the back of the head. I mean, not too much. It's not really necessary all the time, but I find that I have a better understanding of the volume if so. I'm going to mark the attachment of the jaw on one side and the other, probably somewhere there. You can use several different forms for this. I'm gonna go with something simple, almost straight, basically. Not entirely straight. It's kind of like curved like that. Try to give it a jaw shape, but again, it depends on the character. So let's keep this simple. Making sure I know where the chin is. I wonder if this is a little too long too. Let's see. Maybe a little long. So let's account for that. Let's redo this. Starting there. And I'm leaving these in, even though a few of you, or probably just one person, complained about the fact that I should be editing these parts out. I don't think so, because otherwise it looks like, oh, he gets it perfect immediately. Well, I don't. I definitely don't. So I want this to be clear. I don't get it perfect every single time. Sometimes I just cut it out from the video. So it's better if you see sometimes the whole process. Let's curve this and curve the middle. This is the brow line, by the way, the middle of the initial box. And then I'm going to curve this a little bit as well, even though it's receding. And I'm going to decide where the pit of the neck is going to be. Curve in, curve in. You can even twist the neck if you want. Like you don't have to keep them, perfect. Sternocleidomastoid. I am imagining this as if the person is tilting the hat backwards. You can, like, if you want, you can just draw it as if there is a chest here, depending on how the shot is in your picture. Bear in mind, obviously, if you're looking up at the person, like from down below, you're not going to see this. You're going to see the chest here. So you're only going to see the neck attachment if it's tilting the head up. Ear, I tend to screw up the ears, by the way, please notice. It's probably going to be something like that. They should not be left like I do, but it's just the ears. You shouldn't. I've been warned you shouldn't do that. Something like this here. So we draw the side of the mouth or of the face, making sure we understand that there's a surface there. And then generally we tend to curve it out. It's very curvy. Like this is very curvy, but I still don't like to start with a sphere. I think it's much better to do this. I can actually draw a little bit of the side here of the head, so I can see that sort of, I don't know how to call it, side of the head. A bit of the forehead here. In this case, I want to indicate a little bit of that. And when you draw this curve, you can also split it in several segments, like something like that, if you want. It might help, actually. So something like this for the forehead. And my nose is gonna be here. For the length of the nose, make sure it goes perpendicular to, you know, the attachment line and follows the perspective here that we established with the initial box, which is the whole reason why we draw a box, right? It's to establish perspective, or the initial perspective. We're gonna try to get the glabella here, though it's not gonna be that easy. Going in, and because again the face or the sockets recede a little more on the top compared to the bottom, I'm going to cut them a little shorter, maybe there, something like that. Hopefully it's enough. And then draw the muzzle here, like the chin. Those are going to be something like that. Maybe a little too much. It looks fat. It's probably correct. This might be a little too much. Something like that is good. I'm going to also indicate a bit of the zygomatic arc, not too much. See, this rhythm is now a little more clear, right? It's coming from the side of the head, from where the ear attaches, or right behind the ear. This ear might be a little maybe too low, so I can probably change that. Something like that. Right, you can see a bit of that. The neck is a little beefy. A little important. The sternocleidomastoid is huge here, but it's fine. I do want to, I would rather emphasize volume than not in this exercise. You got time for subtleties in other angles. Something like that. Again, let's indicate a bit of that bottom plane. Bottom plane. Nose, obviously it's the bottom plane. I'm going to see the side of the nose here. Bear in mind, and indicate that as well. Let's see. Looking pretty good. So I'm going to do this and these three, I think. I'm going to speed up a little bit, so I'm not going to comment every single thing I do, if you don't mind. Again, ears going down here. This is probably a little short compared to the other. Let's see. No, it's roughly in the correct position. Right there, this one. Remember, this goes down a little bit from the attachment. Not too much, like not a whole unit, but just a little bit. And as always, it will depend on your character. The ear occupies the bottom quarter, bottom left quarter here, so I'm gonna draw it there with a little bit of volume. And it's gonna look squashed, especially because I'm drawing small. But that's fine for now. It's also gonna be that the line that starts, or that aligns with the ear, the top of the ear, is the brow line. So make sure it's that one, which is basically the middle of the initial box. I'm gonna curve it again. Curve both. Maybe add a little bit of that curve as well. Always remembering to add that neck rhythm, because otherwise it's gonna look strange. I'm gonna add it here as well. I found that it's really fundamental to do so. It's gonna look very strange if you don't do this sort of ass curve here. And at least for me, it was just not. Uptilts have never worked well until I started doing so. Like, even if I add a windpipe here, it's still gonna look good with those rhythms. It's basically like the inside part, where it's kind of between the windpipe and the sternocleidomastoid. So I should probably be cutting this, just that, maybe a little bit more here, something like that. You're still gonna round it off, but it's different if you start with a form you already understand. That's the box, by the way. So hopefully you understand the box at least. This is the nose. Remember that a center line, now we're starting to see that a little better. It's also curved, obviously, so this is going backwards like so. So I'm gonna draw the nose like that. Glabella here, nose going back. Making sure this is going backwards, and then it's going down, so it attaches right there. It's a little lower again. It's probably around here, so we probably need to lower these and make the nose a little deeper, and then it connects there. A lot of this will be feeling based, mind you. This is probably a little too far off, like that, something like so. You will have to adjust it. I keep adjusting it all the time. So let's see, this probably gonna be there, something like that, because it's curved, right? So maybe it's a little too much. It's going inside, maybe a little much here. So let me redo this part. I actually had to redo it in the previous test that I've made. It's probably somewhere there. You don't want the face to be exceedingly large, but you do want some what of a volume there, something like that probably. Chin, and again, there are many different volumes here, which I'm not indicating. Be aware of that, and you will have to do it as you get better. Definitely do not start with Uptilts if you want to indicate those. Something like that I think will work. Making sure the nose is... This is tough because, well, again, symmetry, which is the bane of my existence, but because the attachment of the jaw is basically making a flat shape here to where it becomes chin. So it's something like that. It's almost flat. So I find it really hard. I'm still gonna use those two lines, two curves to indicate the neck. Sternocleidomastoid, the whole of the neck. I've also thought about starting with a cylinder with a head, by the way, which is something I'm going to try out at some point because it makes sense that it could work. Here we're going to see a little more of that shape that I mentioned earlier. Let's see if it's not too much. We're indicating the cheekbones. Basically, this is another rhythm. And as always, the width of the chin depends on the type of character you're drawing. So I'm going to do something like that. This might be a little too low. Benefit of digital, right? If you suck like me, you can just Control Z and move things. How awesome is that? I'm also going to indicate a bit of that glabella, keystone shape. Nose, let's see, we're seeing probably a little less than that. This could have been easily longer than what I made it, but maybe something like so. I actually would like the nose to be a little kind of pointy at the bottom where it attaches. That's a little more accurate to what the shape of the nose is. I'm just injecting a little bit of the sculptural quality. So I'm going to do something like that. So this goes in and then comes out again right there. So this is basically this, right? When you got your head from the side, this shaded part is top and this one is the bottom. And chin, making our muzzle. You can tie things from side to side if you want. You can make sure you do understand. This is not really the mouth. This is more like it looks like a monkey otherwise. It's more like an indication of the volume of this ovoid shape. And I'm gonna add the sides. Do not forget the sides here. Probably want to add a little bit of volume maybe here. Don't eat me alive if it's not symmetrical, please. So splitting this in 3 parts actually helps a lot. And then we're gonna add, I'm gonna see, definitely see, even if it's converging towards the back or receding towards the back, I'm gonna add a little bit of the side of the head, something like that. And then the ears, ears are hard here, because I don't even know if we would see the ears with this sort of like perspective from the cube, but let's say we do, because otherwise it's just gonna look strange. Moving to this one, we're almost done. So go down, attach here, going down, attaching, again, down from the middle, roughly the middle between front and back, considering our new back here, if you increased it like I did. Rhythm, rhythm. Making sure I know that there is a bottom plane here, sternocleidomastoid, or adding that sort of cylinder shape. Try to imagine where that cylinder attaches, by the way. That's really, really beneficial. There you go, curving. And curving. So now our new middle line is now here. Make sure you know that. Don't forget, it does change because obviously we, like I've indicated here, we're not here anymore. Like we come out roughly following perspective. It should be maybe more a little like there, but roughly. So your nose is gonna go there now, right? Attaching here, or we can go down a little. And this is obviously not as precise as it could be. It's not gonna be, and that's fine. Because this is just an exercise to understand the volumes. So it doesn't need to be geometrically 100% accurate, right? So going in here, and down, probably a little too slim of a chin there, and something like that. I want to indicate the ear again. It's probably somewhere like there, and using my ear also to indicate the rhythm. Top of the head here, I will indicate part of that like so, and this is going in like that. It's a bit of a complicated, tricky angle here because it's going to be inside and it's going toward the back, so it's a little bit weird. Don't be discouraged if you don't get it right away. The chin would have to protrude forward, but we didn't do it, so let's do something like that maybe. Okay, you know what? I'm thinking maybe it doesn't even need to have, these muscles are huge. That much of extra back of the head. Probably something like that is fine. I'm just plain conservative here. The nose is a little short. I do want it longer, so I'm gonna edit that. Whatever you do, do not just try to blindly follow the rule. Always look at what you have on paper, or canvas in this case. If it doesn't look good, this is still the ultimate source of truth for you. Also, if you're using a reference, do edit things that you don't think are looking as good as they could. This neck is huge, or long. Okay, last one. Let's not add it for now, there. I am going to add that a little more towards the back. This is kind of tricky because it's closer to the back, so you don't really see that. You see maybe a bit of that kind of indication. And this goes here like that. The center would be somewhere there. Sternomastoid. As you probably have noticed by now, I tend to square off a lot of parts, including the neck. It's not a bad idea to draw the neck as some sort of like soft box like that. It's not a bad idea at all. So do that if you feel a little more comfortable with boxes. Ear. Yeah, it does need a little bit of back of the head right there. Chiseling away as always. This is like so, just trying to stay consistent with my perspective. Or with the guidelines, I should say. Every time I say perspective, I'm scared people might misunderstand. Oh, I gotta learn, horizon line and stuff like that. Just the basics, really. Check out my perspective video on the approach that I tend to use nowadays. I think it's gonna be much better than the traditional one. So, we got something it's a little flatter inside also, so I'm not gonna bore you with the exact details of this, but something like that. And it goes out a bit. Probably doing this. I think this part is a little short, so I'm going to change that. It's probably closer to that thing. Nose is here. I know it looks like it shouldn't be, but it is. and it jolts out like that. This goes in, goes out again. And this goes in like so. The other part, I'm gonna make it a little smaller, and then make sure I do have enough space to indicate that sort of rhythm now, so I can do that. And this again, I'm dividing probably something like this here. Looks sad, right? Flat. I'm going out a little more with my muzzle. This might be a little too fat here. And indicating it there. As you can see, I'm just constantly adjusting this, because if I see that it doesn't look as it should, the drawing is again the ultimate source of truth. So that's the middle line, by the way. This black one is the middle line. And this is my rhythm. Technically it goes down from here. There would be a lot more planes to indicate. I'm not going to do that to keep it simple. But once you get comfortable with them, you just go back to this and maybe add them. This is probably a little off. Something like maybe a little more curved even. Something like that. I feel like it would be a little better. The eye socket here is borderline a little too large. But I'm not going to die for that. So just leaving it. Making sure I do understand that the volume of the nose goes, inside like so. Something like that. Okay, that's it for these. I'm going to time lapse the other two, and I'll catch you when they are done. Alright, that's pretty much it for Uptilts. Again, I don't really think you'll ever see these. Maybe this one. This one might also be a little big here. Depending on how fat the person is, you're going to see less of that, because the bottom obviously goes down and then up again. But that said, you're very unlikely to see this kind of angle. But all of these are probably very hard to be seen. So the first thing you want to ask yourself again is, do I need to study uptilts now? Because if you don't, you're probably better off studying just the planes of the head from the angles you are most likely to use in your art. Okay? If you enjoyed the video and found it useful, like and subscribe. As always, this is Nemo, and I will catch you next time. Take care.